Hey, welcome back, everybody. Happy Friday. Hopefully, we're having a wonderful end of the week out there, and we definitely have a couple things to talk about. But all things considered, we're still kind of in a lull right now. We had a very active beginning to the month. We had Tropical Storm Debbie that took a lot of tracking and a lot of willpower for some of us. But ever since then, really things have remained relatively quiet. Now, with that said, there are some things we're watching. We do have the chance for some severe weather coming up here in the near future. Also watching the tropics. Now, this has been the big storyline, I think, for the past week or two, is that there is no storyline in the tropics. And I won't say that that was completely expected or unexpected. It really depends on who you ask. Some people obviously were forecasting a crazy August. Some people were saying, after Debbie, yeah, we'll have a little bit of a calmer period. And that's definitely what has happened. But I don't want you to let your guard down because, again, we're still a couple weeks away from peak hurricane season. Climatologically speaking, it's generally about the second week of September, and we're still, 3 weeks or so from that. So the models don't even really run that far. And also just the way the tropics work, and we've seen this before, a lot of the times the models might not pick up on something until it's kind of already happening. They're not perfect. Unfortunately, we cannot collect data out here in the middle of the ocean as well as we can over land. So a lot of these waves, we're really just relying on satellite and buoys to pick up whatever information they can. And that can only do so much for us. So, we're going to take it day by day here. Right now, we're going to enjoy it while it lasts, but I really don't think that we're going to stay in this lull forever. In fact, I can guarantee you we won't. And I think by the time we start September, again, those last couple of days of August into September, I think we'll have more to track. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean we'll have a storm at that moment in time threatening land, but I think by that point, the models will at least begin to pick up on some more activity as we head towards the peak of hurricane season. So that's kind of what we're watching right now. Now, again, welcome if you're new here. My name is Gerald. I am a meteorology major at the University of North Carolina, Charlotte in my junior year now. So kind of on the latter end of things here. And I appreciate you stopping by. If you're a returning viewer, welcome back. Great to see you. Also, if you haven't subscribed, and I've looked at the analytics, most of the people who view these videos actually return to view them, but still aren't subscribed. So just make it easy on yourself. Hit the subscribe button and hit the bell, and then you'll be notified when I upload, so you don't have to kind of go searching through the YouTube page and finding it that way. Also, like the video, comment, let me know where you're watching from. I guess that's all. Kind of a long rambling here, but again, a little bit slower, so I'm going to try to get a little bit more personal here. Also, let me add this. We will have another episode of the Scud Spotter podcast out this Sunday evening, hopefully, with me and Mitch from GMWeather. So definitely it's another great reason to subscribe and hit the bell. You'll be notified about that when it happens. Alrighty, I think that's enough of me yapping on forever. Let's go ahead and start talking about the weather here. We'll just start with satellite. Again, we're going to start with the tropics, then we'll move into what's kind of happening back home. But right now, really not much. Now, we do have a couple areas of some thunderstorm activity that we're watching, but really the main development region here, or this part of the Atlantic where we would normally see tropical development during peak hurricane season, it's really just not very active. Now, you will notice at the side of the frame here, just now coming into frame, we do have a pretty big wave working through Africa right now that will eventually get off the coast here sometime over the next 3 to 5 days, but before that happens, we really just don't have much to track. And even that's not guaranteed that that will form anything as well. So really, I'd say the highest chance of any formation right now would be in the Gulf of Mexico with this kind of leftover frontal boundary. Some of our models are picking up on maybe a little piece of energy kind of breaking off and trying to spin up in the Gulf. But even then, the models are not super excited about it. So that's kind of what things look like currently on satellite. And again, the experts here at the National Hurricane Center are not expecting anything over the next 7 days. That could change again. I wouldn't be super surprised to see a small little yellow area in the Gulf over the next couple of days as we have a little bit of energy moving through. And you never want to say never in the Gulf of Mexico. So we'll see if that leads to anything, but, again, right now, nothing is jumping out to us as big-time potential here for active weather, at least in the near term. Now, we'll take a look at some ensembles here. These are the latest GFS ensembles for the next 10 days, and you'll notice we got a couple areas. Again, some of these members down into the Gulf and even into the Yucatan, that area there, that bay there through Mexico. We could, maybe see something trying to get going at some point. It's, again, not out of the ordinary to see a homegrown development this time of year, but really where most people would be looking and are looking is out here in the main development region. And yes, we do have some members here that are showing some sort of tropical development, but we're just not really latching on to a single wave and a single time frame. It's just kind of scattered here. So not a super strong signal on the GFS, but there are some members, at least. I say at least, obviously we don't want something to form, but if you're a hurricane, there are some members that believe in you and your chances to get going. But we take a look at the European, and again, it's kind of just more of the same. It's just kind of hit or miss. We've got maybe a couple clusters here that show some activity, but all things considered, these are weak signals. In the grand scheme of things. So nothing jumping out to me that says, we absolutely need to watch this specific wave. I think right now we're still just watching a time frame and not so much a specific storm. So again, not to say that you can completely let your guard down over the, for the tropics here. And in fact, I'll even show you a model run. I talked about the Gulf and, how we have that frontal boundary sagging through. Again, nothing from the NHC right now, but I will mention it's not impossible we get something to form out here. So you'll notice here we do have, kind of a bit of a wave here that kind of breaks off from the front over Florida. It's been very stormy for you folks. You guys and gals down there definitely, know that through the Sunshine State right now. But eventually that could try to get here into the Gulf of Mexico sometime early next week or even this weekend. And, it's obviously you're looking at this and you're saying, what are you talking about? There's nothing here. But we do have a little bit of a short wave here or a trough or just kind of a wave axis, if you will, of some low pressure that tries to form. And on this model, the Icon model, it gets close. You'll notice we get a little bit of an L to pop up here, a little bit of a closed surface low by next week. This is next Wednesday afternoon. And then eventually just kind of meanders a little bit and tries to work inland somewhere next week. So not, nothing strong showing up on this model. This isn't a hurricane. Arguably, this isn't even a tropical storm. This is just an open wave, borderline tropical depression. So, nothing of super big concern right now, but I do want to watch it. Obviously, it could bring some rain to some folks that might need it. It could, potentially become something bigger. Again, that's unlikely right now, but you never say never in the Gulf of Mexico. That's one thing you learn pretty quick here in the world of forecasting. So just figured I'd show that to you. Nothing right now, again, says, keep all eyes on this, something major coming. But, when it's as quiet as it is right now, it's great to kind of latch onto these smaller things and the potential that they have to develop. All right, final map here for the tropics today. Again, kind of a short segment in the video, but I showed this to you yesterday. The Climate Prediction Center, they actually just started this year, I think. This is their global tropics hazard outlook, and they're still saying those last couple of days of August to the first couple of days of September, we're likely to see some sort of tropical development here. This would be, again, going into next week. So, about a week from today, and then the 7 days after that, we could see some development here. In fact, they're saying it's more likely than not that we have some sort of development out here with a greater than 60% chance of a tropical depression, a tropical storm, or a hurricane forming. So, I keep putting in the thumbnail, this kind of picture out here with a hurricane in question marks. I'm going to keep it because, I don't put that there to say, something is coming. If I ever put question marks over something in the thumbnail, by the way, that generally means there's a lot of uncertainty. And right now, I would say that there still is a pretty high amount of uncertainty past the 1 week mark in the tropics. Again, the next week, things are going to be quiet, but we get towards week 2 and week 3, it's really impossible to know until it gets here. But the experts here, again, they study the climate. They have taken way more classes than I have on the climate. They are expecting still that we have that potential for development. And again, climatologically, it makes sense. This is getting closer to peak hurricane season. So we'll continue to watch that. And again, it's very possible that we do see some development here a week or two on down the road. All right, that is the tropics. Let's take a look back home now. And also, I'm sorry about the little glitch in the satellite here. It's just, technology is imperfect. Sometimes the satellite forgets a picture whenever it's up there, or a picture messes up, or, it's just like with your phone. Sometimes you take a picture and it's out of focus or it's blurry or whatever. Same thing happens with our satellites in space. But this is water vapor loop. This is a little bit different than what I normally show. And I'm going to show it mainly because yesterday in one of my classes, we looked at it and I obviously knew what water vapor loop was, but my professor made a very good point that it's a great tool to just look at the jet stream. And I think that's what we'll use it for today. So again, you can kind of pick out some features here in this. In fact, just so that kind of glitch stops on the screen, I'm going to pause this and just move it ahead here. You'll notice a couple things here. So we've got high pressure here. Again, this is bringing flow this way. We've got a big time trough still and kind of this upper level low up here. That's bringing flow this way. Again, a trough here. That's continuing to bring flow down this way as well. And then also another big trough is developing out here and moving through the Pacific Northwest. So, excuse some of my kind of uglier arrows here that are a little, not so perfect, but you get the general idea of what we're looking at currently. We've got troughing out west, moving through the Pacific Northwest. That's bringing unsettled weather. Also, specifically, it's bringing this corridor of pretty impressive flow through the Rockies. That has led to some pretty good monsoonal flow. It's going to lead to some severe weather this afternoon, tomorrow afternoon. This heat dome, this is leading to some big time high temperatures out through Texas. It has been brutally hot for you folks here, and today will likely be no different. And then in the east, again, we have this other trough that is continuing to bring in some nicer, drier air through portions of the Mid-Atlantic and Ohio River Valley. So this is a great tool to use just to look at kind of what's happening now and kind of connect the dots. That's one of the things I love about meteorology is it's kind of like a puzzle. You kind of got to find each little piece and put it all together. And I just find that super fascinating, and ultimately that's why I take the classes I don't want to take, so I can take the classes I do want to take, which is just kind of how it is with the meteorology degree. But either way, just kind of want to show that to you. So radar, again, it kind of also works with the same map we just showed. I talked about that monsoonal flow, and sure enough, in that corridor I talked about, we've got some rain popping up here through the mountains here of Utah, really just the Four Corners region in general, even up into the northern Rockies. We've got some rain out here into the Pacific Northwest. I talked about that trough. Again, that makes sense there. And then this rain, you're probably wondering, well, wasn't this kind of near the high pressure? Yeah, it's actually kind of on the outer ring of that high pressure. So the same ring of fire thing we talk about during the summer, this is kind of the same general thing here with some of these storms we're seeing in Kansas. Same thing up here into the Midwest, that same general ring of fire aspect as these storms kind of move through the Rockies around that ridge and then down on the other side of that trough. And then some pretty good showers and storms through Florida. This is just due to that leftover front that we've been talking about. And some of those showers and storms are trying to work up into coastal areas of the Carolinas. We've gotten very lucky the past couple of days. Or I say very lucky, maybe more lucky than the models projected. Some of that that drier air has moved a little bit further south than some of the models thought. Some of the models kind of thought maybe that more moist air might win out. Luckily, we've seen some pretty good dry air in the southeast recently, and today will be another pretty nice day. Now, watches, warnings, and advisories out there, not a whole lot going on. I did notice this, and I'm going to zoom into it just because I think it's very interesting. These kind of, I don't even know what color you want to call this. It almost looks like an army kind of yellow greenish color here, almost camouflage-esque here through Spokane, Washington. This is actually a blowing dust advisory, I think is what they're calling this. Yeah, so again, due to that trough, we've got some pretty strong winds, and I guess the dust is blowing out here. Honestly, I've never been to this part of the country, and I'm not super familiar with the geography of it, but I imagine we do have some pockets of drier terrain, so kind of interesting stuff up here, just not something you see very often. And just kind of interesting to talk about. Now, it is going to be hot again. Dallas, Oklahoma City, Lubbock, Midland, Austin, San Antonio. Yeah, it's going to be hot again this afternoon, unfortunately for you, which, we appreciate you taking one for the team because the Southeast has been plenty hot enough. The East Coast in general has had a pretty hot summer. So now that we're on kind of the cooler side of things, again, what goes up must come down. So what goes down in the East is coming up in the Central Plains in terms of temperatures. Again, just unfortunate, but we appreciate you taking one for the team. With that said, though, in all seriousness, definitely stay hydrated out there as it is going to be pretty warm this afternoon. Okay, let me just go back, make sure I talked about all that. Looks good. Okay, so today's severe weather outlook and tomorrow, again, this is mainly going to be formed off of that monsoonal flow I mentioned. So we could see some strong storms. Main threat would be strong straight line winds and some large hail anywhere in those dark green shades. Through the Rockies this afternoon, and even into the foothills of the Rockies, into the foothills of Colorado, and even some more areas of the plains from extreme western Kansas, Nebraska, and the western Dakotas could see a couple strong storms today. We get this into tomorrow, another area through Denver, into the Four Corners region, and into western Nebraska, southeastern Wyoming, and northwestern New Mexico there. So again, a couple days of strong storms that mainly just driven off of that monsoonal flow. There's not a specific low pressure that is causing it or anything. Just kind of more pop-up storms and even kind of some storms driven off of elevation that are kind of, once this monsoonal flow hits the mountain terrains here, again, it kind of gets forced to lift, and then, we get some storms to form there due to that forced descent. So we'll show that first here, just taking a look at radar this afternoon or what it could look like. Again, you'll notice a lot of showers and storms here popping up into the Rockies. Any of these could try to become strong to severe. Also some showers and storms up here to the Pacific Northwest. Again, that trough is finally moving through. It's bringing that lift. It's bringing that rain. And again, it could be pretty rainy or snowy in the higher terrains. And when I say higher terrains, I really mean like the peak of these mountains. But either way, pretty cool to see some August snow out there. And we get into overnight tonight and into this evening. Just look at this. More waves of rain working on through the Pacific Northwest, even into Northern California, through the Rockies. And we get this into our Saturday afternoon. You'll notice another flare-up of storms here, again, through the Four Corners and into the Rockies. Now, at this point in time, due to this troughing that we're seeing out here, we are going to see some low pressure form on the diverging side of this. We're going to have some lift at the surface, probably going to get low pressure to form into Montana for our Saturday afternoon, and that eventually could lead to severe weather into the plains going into Sunday. Now, this is overnight Saturday into Sunday. You'll notice still some showers and storms due to that troughing and due to that flow, but eventually we're going to bring this into the Great Plains, some of that severe weather threat as we go into early next week. Now for the east this afternoon, it's really just another day in Florida for the rain. Everyone else still kind of holding on to that nicer weather. Again, some showers trying to work on through portions of the plains and into the Midwest, just due to kind of it being on the periphery of that ridge and that trough that is, on the map that we drew earlier. So we will watch for some showers there. But the Mid-Atlantic, Ohio River Valley, Northeast, southeast outside of Florida, and maybe coastal Carolinas and Georgia. Another beautiful afternoon. And then Saturday, we'll do it all again here. Saturday afternoon, again, maybe a couple showers, try to work through the Northeast, but I'm really not expecting much there in terms of rainfall. And again, some more showers through the state of Florida. But I will mention Saturday looks a little bit nicer maybe than the past couple of days. But yeah, so that's really just the next couple of days here. High temperatures. We'll get this into this afternoon. Again, it's going to be hot through Texas, Oklahoma, high temperatures. It's going to be well past 100 heat index, even higher than that. Mid-Atlantic, Northeast, it's going to be another beautiful day. We're going to be in the 80s and the 70s. It's going to start to get warmer through the Ohio River Valley. Sorry about that. So we'll have to watch for that. That could definitely make things warmer, obviously, as that flow returns out of the Gulf of Mexico. It's also going to make it a little bit muggier. We get this into tomorrow, and my map doesn't really want to work, but I'm going to make it work here. Tomorrow morning, again, another pretty crisp morning for a lot of folks, down into the 50s and 60s again through the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast. But you'll notice things heating up here. Again, this high pressure we've been tracking is slowly going to shift offshore and increase that flow back out of the Gulf of Mexico, which again will help that moist air advection up into the plains. Again, that's going to increase some severe weather chances for you folks. But for our Saturday afternoon, just warmer than it is today. That's kind of been the theme this week. We started pretty cool. It's been a little bit warmer, a little bit warmer, a little bit warmer, a little bit warmer. You get the point, so on and so forth here. So that's just kind of the theme for this weekend. Now, dew point wise, again, it's going to be pretty nice today through the Mid-Atlantic, the Northeast. Again, I'd add about 5 degrees to all these dew point values, but either way, you get the point. It stays nice for a lot of us, but we get into Saturday. Again, notice this flow. We got a lot of that air out of the south coming back out of the Gulf of Mexico and advecting its way well up into the Great Plains. It's going to be a lot muggier in the Dakotas tomorrow than it will be in the east. But again, still holding on to that dry air through the Northeast, the Appalachia chain. In fact, if you can get out to the mountains this week, do it. I mean, it's going to be beautiful through North Carolina, the Virginias, even up into the Poconos, the Catskills, Adirondacks, whatever part of the mountain chain you're closest to. It's really going to be quite a beautiful weekend up there. So I would definitely suggest doing that if you are able. But again, as we get into next week, that moist air is going to return. It's going to start to feel a little bit more muggy, and that's something we're going to want to watch out for. All right, another little bit of a different map here. We're going to use a 500 millibar height wind map instead of just the height anomaly map. Again, just kind of to take a look at the jet stream here. I think that's something I probably don't do enough on the channel, and we probably should a little bit more often. So going into this weekend, again, a big dip in the jet stream here into the Pacific Northwest. That's going to make it cooler. That's going to bring that rain. And eventually, as that dip moves towards the Great Plains, we are going to see some severe weather chances. So this is Monday into Tuesday. Notice we still have this little dip here. It's going to increase some wind shear values over that moist air that is returning northward. That's going to bring some severe weather chances Sunday and Monday. here through portions of the northern plains. Also, a little bit of a dip over the northeast still. Again, that's going to try to hold on and keep some of that cooler air. But what I'm really watching for is the long range. What's going to happen to the jet stream kind of in the next 7 to 10 days? Well, we're still watching this potential about a week from now for a bit of, another dip, almost a cutoff low of sorts here. Kind of gets cut off from this main jet up into Canada and just kind of dips down here and closes itself off, potentially as far south as the United States, maybe just over Canada. But this, again, going into next week could cause some concern. In fact, you'll even notice this is, a relatively positive tilted trough here, but should it try to become, a little bit more, actually it's negatively tilted, sorry. It starts positively. It even tries to turn negatively tilted here into next weekend here. You'll notice the trough axis here is a little bit more negative in nature. That generally spells trouble. Now, whether that's severe weather or what exactly it is, we'll have to wait and see, but I am watching, again, the northeast, eastern Canada, the northern tier of the country, anywhere really in this circled area for the potential of some strong to severe storms maybe next weekend, maybe some gusty winds, maybe some strong low pressure. We'll see exactly what happens, but again, getting to that time of the year where we're seeing more of these mid-latitude cyclones try to kind of play havoc on the forecast. But this severe weather threat isn't for that second one. It's that first smaller one I mentioned. So this is day 3. This is Sunday. Again, a severe weather chance from the Rockies all the way up through the northern Great Plains, specifically the Dakotas and Minnesota here in that slight risk for Sunday. And then Monday, we even have a day 4 outlook through the Twin Cities, northern Wisconsin here, and just kind of surrounding areas. Again, could see some strong storms for our Monday. And again, this area I imagine will probably expand a little bit. It'll probably be a little bit more like this in nature. But obviously, once we get a little bit closer, we'll have a little bit more confidence in that. But again, just watch out for some severe weather here over the next couple of days in the northern Great Plains. Also, if anyone's watching from up here, let me know. I know I've got some viewers in Michigan, I think 1 or 2 in Nebraska. But if you're watching in the Dakotas or near the Twin Cities, definitely let me know. Would love to hear from you. All right, so what could this all look like on radar? Well, again, we'll kind of just move this into Sunday afternoon where we left off. You'll notice some of these showers and storms developing Sunday into Monday, again, up into this potential area for, severe weather that we talked about. That kind of works on through. Outside of that, we're going to just be dealing with kind of a lack of flow in the east. So things are going to warm up again for sure, but there's not really any high rain chances, maybe a couple afternoon thunderstorms, but all things considered, high pressure tries to stay relatively locked in here, even if the flow is a little bit more favorable for some more summertime air. We'll definitely want to watch for that. But again, I think the big storyline is going to be what happens later next week. And here we go. Look at this. Here's that big storm system I was telling you about. Again, pretty impressive trough here. We've got this low pressure on the diverging side. Again, turning negative in nature. So, it could really increase some of the dynamics here with this system. And that's why I'm watching for severe weather chances in here as this swings on through next week. Through portions of the Midwest. Could be a pretty big severe weather event, at least for, August to September standards. And then that could even try to swing on through the Northeast. Also, if that moves a little bit further south, we could see some cold air. We could see some dry air once again. Just kind of a lot more questions than we have answers right now on that storm system, but I'm definitely watching it here for sure as we go into next week. Now, dew point values. Again, it's going to start to get muggier. This is Tuesday. You'll notice, though, I say it gets muggier. It definitely will, but there are some pockets in here that's really trying to hold on to this dry air. So, through the mid-Atlantic, maybe the mid-South, up through the Northeast, we might really get lucky here and hold on to this dry air for a little bit longer than even I anticipated originally. But for most of us, again, the flow here around this is going to, generally speaking, increase that moist air return. And again, that's also going to help with some of those severe weather, or I say help, it's going to help the severe weather. It's not going to help us, unfortunately. But either way, I do think by later next week, everyone's back in on that muggy air about a week from now. And then watch what happens. Again, you notice another big crash of dew points. That's that storm system trying to swing on through and bring things down. It's just a matter of how strong is it and how far south does it get? That'll play a big factor in who sees some drier air out of it, if anybody at all. And same story for temperatures. Again, it's going to start to heat back up this weekend and into next week. Look at those warmer temperatures overtaking the east, a little bit cooler out west, but by the time we're back into next Tuesday, we're back to maybe 10 to 20 degrees above what we should be this time of year, which is unfortunately just no fun for anybody unless you like summer, but I don't, so I'm going to assume nobody else does. Again, though, after that, we'll see maybe some cold air tries to return with a cold front. we'll see. It really, we know a lot less right now than we do. So I'll definitely keep you updated. But for now, that's all I got for you on this Friday. Y'all have a wonderful rest of your day. Stay hydrated out there if you're in those hot areas. Go out there and enjoy it if you're in those nicer areas. And I'll see you all tomorrow.